Awesome Heart Ministry. I'm Laura McFarland, and happy 4th of July, even though it's the week after I am actually working and recording this video on the 4th, so I'm still festive, still have my 4th of July decor up, and you are going to be watching this, Lord willing, the week after the 4th of July. But it's green bean season. If you have a garden, or if you have access to a farmer's market, or if you're like me and you have a friend with a garden patch filled with green beans that she's canned and eaten and shared, and they were still hanging on the vine, and when she offered anyone that was willing to come pick, I said, yes, pick me please. So I ran up and picked some green beans, and I'm going to show you today how very easy it is to freeze green beans. Now, I sat in front of the television and indulged in a little viewing time last night while I trimmed these green beans, and I cut them in bite-sized pieces so you can see the size they are here. I'm going to dump them in my colander, and I'm going to go ahead and wash them, dropping my colander here. Get all of them washed. I didn't want to wash them before because I was just afraid that the moisture might get them just a little mushy. So I always like to trim and cut up my beans in advance and then wash them right before I'm going to be using them. Now, back in the old days, I have a pressure cooker up in my attic somewhere. The seal's probably dry rotted. I had a few years where I canned green beans. I grew up in West Virginia, where my mother fed a family with 4 children by canning lots of green beans every summer. She canned probably 120 quarts of beans every summer. And we would have fresh green beans with small potatoes, those new potatoes cooked on top, and of course they were cooked with bacon grease and maybe a hunk of bacon or ham, and so delicious. This is going to be a little bit more of a healthy option. I hope that might be something that interests you. I do like green beans a little crisp, tender, like they're sometimes served in a restaurant. I like them better that way than just cooked to they're really soft. So if you like fresh green beans sort of blanched, that's what we're doing here. I have a pot of water that's at a good rolling boil here. I'm going to bring it over here for purposes of the video, and I'm going to try to not burn myself and put my green beans into this boiling water. Now, I probably should have just dropped them into the rolling boil, but I'm going to get them right back on there real quick and swing around here and get these green beans going. And so they are back to a rolling boil. I'm going to give them just a little stir here to make sure that everything is down there as it should be. Maybe cover this with a lid. Whoops, wrong lid. Still wrong lid. Okay, maybe Brian will edit that out for us. Okay, 3rd time is the charm. I got the right lid on there. Okay, so I'm going to watch the clock. I'm going to let these go for about 4 minutes. So with the lid on there, they should get back to a rolling boil pretty quickly. I do not want them to boil over, so I'm going to sort of crack that lid a little bit. So we're going to blanch these. They're going to go for about 4 minutes, and I have a bowl with ice in it here, and so I actually may have too much ice. So I'm going to get some cold ice water ready, and when you blanch green beans for freezing, you want to cook them for 3 to 4 minutes, get them, and then pull them right out and very quickly drop them in ice water to cool them down really quickly. And then when they're completely cool, we're going to put them in freezer bags and freeze them. And that, my friends, is all there is to it. Super duper easy. One of the easiest things to do ever. A lot less time consuming and perhaps a lot less dangerous than trying to can green beans. And so if you love fresh vegetables and you would love to have these throughout the winter, this is such an easy way to make that happen. Until we planted a garden. Now, I grew up in West Virginia. I said that we had a big garden. My parents planted corn and beans and potatoes, and I can't think if there was much else that they planted. But when Kevin and I sort of made our little journey into some gardening for a while when the kids were little, we planted green peppers, we planted cantaloupe, and tomatoes, all those delicious vegetables. Until you've eaten a vegetable fresh, you really haven't eaten a vegetable. I remember picking a green pepper, taking it in the house, slicing it and eating it, and I thought, wow, I have been eating in black and white, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm eating a vegetable in living color. It's just that good. And so whether you have a patch of green beans in your backyard, or whether you've got a friend with an overloaded patch of green beans, or whether you want to go to a farmer's market, this could be an easy way for you to have fresh green beans throughout the fall into the winter. They'll last about 8 months in the freezer, according to the internet, if you believe what you read. But the thing about blanching them, it keeps the flavor and the color heightened. They don't get as mushy as they otherwise would. So you're going to just cook them very briefly. We're going to drop them in the ice water, and then we're going to have that delicious flavor and color sort of locked in. So I'm watching the clock. I'm going to give it about another minute here. I'm going to take a look at these and see if they're starting to have that little greenish look that tells me they are done, and they are definitely getting there. So I don't have quite as many. I picked a lot of green beans, about a 5-pound bucket full, but I decided to give a lot of them away. So I blessed a lot of different friends with a few green beans. I cooked a few that we ate here, and so this is what's left. Not a whole lot, but enough to stock up in the freezer for next time. The thing about plain and green beans, they can really, depending upon the region of the country where you live and about the weather, of course, you can have fresh green beans from May to October. They will just keep producing. In fact, my friend said that the weather we've had this year with getting some rain and then hot weather and rain again, they have just loved that. And so they just kept producing because it didn't get real hot and dry like it often does in Arkansas. So her bountiful crop blessed me, and now I hope this might bless you with an idea of how you can put up these delicious vegetables and enjoy them all throughout the season. So here we go. I think we are just about there. I'm going to go ahead and pull them off. I'm going to put them in a colander, drain, and then we're going to dump them into this bowl of ice water and let them cool completely. So let me go ahead and turn off the stove. I'm going to try not to burn myself here. Get my mitt on all the way. Get this off. In case I need that, we'll put it over here. And this little colander has arms that will hold, but it's not always enough to secure it. So it may pop down into the sink on me. We'll see if I can pour it out without making a mess, splashing it on myself, or injuring myself. We don't want this video to end up with a visit to the ER or the burn unit, so hopefully we're going to be okay. And there they are. Alrighty, got them all out. There we go. Alrighty, and so the next thing I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to drop them in here. I don't think my colander will quite fit. We're just going to put all these right into my bowl. I should have done that where you could see. I can tell you sort of get what you pay for on this channel, ladies. So anyway, I dropped the green beans into my bowl. I did have the wherewithal to choose a clear bowl so you could see the green beans in there, but the ice water is cooling them down quickly. I still feel a little bit of heat. I'm going to give this just a few minutes for those to cool completely, and then let me grab a towel. Kind of have a little water on the counter here. After they have cooled completely, I have a freezer bag ready, and I'm just going to label these 7/4/23. So when I put these in the freezer, I'll know how old they are. And if it gets into next April or May, it's probably past the time that they should be used. Again, about 8 months, but I don't think they're going to last that long. There's not that many of them. I'll probably just have 2 or 3 bags full to freeze. But this way, I'll know what they are. There's nothing worse than finding something in your freezer, not knowing the date. How long has that been in there? Is it freezer burned? Is it safe? You do want to use a freezer bag, not just a regular storage bag. Make sure that it's sealed up tightly, and they're going to be safe. The other thing that is recommended anytime you freeze something like this is to not stack them on top of each other immediately. And in fact, they shouldn't be on top of something else. You want air to be able to circulate so that it freezes quickly and evenly. And so I like to even use a little rack. This is a little cookie sheet. I'm going to put that up on a shelf in my freezer and lay my bags on this, maybe 3 across, so that the air can circulate all the way around. And then as soon as they're completely frozen, I'll pull the rack out, and then they can just be stacked up nice and neat, one on top of the other. You want to get out as much air as possible, squeeze that air out, and then seal it tight. So I'm going to let these, I think they're completely cool. Actually, the ice water really helped. That was a good tip that I have learned. And so we're going to go ahead, and I want these to be drained. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is use the colander. That's a better plan. My colander is coming in helpfully, very handy. First for washing, and then for draining the hot green beans, and now for draining the cold green beans. Still have a few ice cubes in there, but I think they're melting very quickly. So get all these in here. And there we go. Okay, so I have all my green beans out. They're in the colander and they are nice and cool. So I've got my little quart-sized freezer bag, and I just picked up these from Aldi. You can get them in any grocery store, department store, and here they are. I like to freeze them in the quart size. That's just a good size for Kevin and me. If you've got a large family, maybe you want to put them in a gallon size if you have that many green beans. But I think a quart size is probably just about perfect. I'm not sure we'll even eat a whole quart. I'm sure we won't in one sitting. And if you have a family, that might be just enough for your family for one meal as well. Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye on these and just pick them up with my hands, because there are a few little lonely ice cubes that are still in there. But I may end up just having a couple of quarts. Now, you can freeze green beans in quart jars in your freezer. That just seems wrong to me, to put glass in the freezer and just sort of waste the space and worry about, I would probably open up the door and knock something over and break it. But that is an option that you can also do. They tell you to wipe the top of the lid well and all that, just like you do when you would be canning them. I'm going to maybe not fill this quite so full since it's just the two of us, and I might rather have a couple of bags. So you can see this. I'm going to sort of do this to get all of the air out, and then fold that back is the best way I know, and then make sure this is completely closed. And then I like to sort of spread those out as such, so that when they are frozen, they're going to be nice and flat and sit there nice and flat. So there's number one. I may just end up getting a couple of bags out of this bunch. We'll see. But I hope that you'll give this a try. And if you do, leave me a note and let me know if you picked your beans yourself, if you bought them at the farmer's market, or if you just picked them up at the grocery store. If this is a new trick for you, a new idea for you to save green beans for the winter, let me know if this is something that you enjoy doing. But yeah, what a great idea, a great way to preserve the delicious flavors that God blesses us with in the summertime. And because of the miracle of technology, we have a freezer and we can enjoy green beans that we picked and we blanched and we froze in July, and we can enjoy them all the way into January. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. For Cross My Heart Ministry, I'm Laura McFarland.